All right, everyone, welcome to the Best Overall Show, episode 14. We're 14 episodes into this crazy adventure. David, how are you? And David's not working either because I'm bad at technology. So stand by for 1 second. David, how are you? Let's try that again.
What's that?
There we go. You're working.
Hey.
How's it going?
Doing wonderful.
Um,
Everything seems to be in working order.
I have yeah, I think I'm just gonna either purposely or not purposely create audio issues. The problem is because I always end up changing the inputs on the various uh defaults, and then that throws me off. Anyways, it is Thursday, July 8th. Welcome to Best Overall Show. Hot Nerd Summer, that is the theme of today's show. Aesthetics Deluxe and Corvus, welcome to the chat. Walter, welcome to the chat as well. Thanks for joining us live. We got a lot to talk about today. It's been, I think we did a show last week, didn't we?
Every other week, so it was 2 weeks ago.
Was that 2 weeks ago? Yes, because I was away last week at a birthday, and I did return in one piece. So I have lots of exciting stories from there that I will not tell you because most of them are not appropriate for the show and will most likely get me arrested. So I will hold off on the stories, but I will say I had a wonderful time out in the bushes, slept very little, drank quite a bit. How was your weekend, David?
I mean, since being out west, I've just been climbing a lot and hiking a lot, and that hasn't changed, and it's awesome. Got some new hobby projects kind of started, so that's been nice.
Yeah, and before we get into hobby projects, I have a few quick announcements. Next week, Politics and Plastic is making its triumphant return. I will be announcing the topic and the guest on the stream schedule tomorrow. So, guys, just so you're aware, the stream schedule goes up in two places. On my personal Instagram, JimboV_paints, or on the YouTube page itself. So if you go to actually the YouTube page, Duplicity Paint, the stream schedule is there. And then it's also on Twitch. The Twitch one's probably a little bit out of date, so I'll make sure to update it this week. But the stream schedule goes up all through those places. So if you guys are wondering what's going on, I do have to apologize though. On Monday, I had to cancel the stream very last minute. I was still a little bit destroyed from the weekend, and I just literally couldn't. I literally couldn't function. So and also there was literally nothing happened last week as far as competitive. There was basically no event, so I didn't think it was that important to talk about. We will be back on Monday with Alex McDougall to talk competitive 40K. And then the other announcement is I'm going to have Colin Sherman on next week. We're going to be doing a one-on-one interview with Colin. I'm still finalizing the times, and we're going to be talking about Charity Hammer. So I'm very excited to announce, some of you may know this already, but I will be attending Charity Hammer. It is basically an annual charity event. This is the third year going, so I've been there since the inaugural year. That is going to be basically August, first weekend of August, so August 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th in America. It's going to be my first trip into the land of the free and the brave. And I'm going to be flying down to Portland actually a few days before, spending some time with some friends, and then heading out to Charity Hammer. Our goal, I think, is to raise $20,000. There's going to be a lot of other people there. I think there's around 32 people. We're having like a full GT at the event. It's a single elimination, but it's going to be super fun. And there's going to be lots of great personalities there. Colin did a big episode on it on his podcast, Best in Faction. So make sure to check that out if you guys are not subscribed to Best in Faction. But I'm also going to have him on the show next week to talk about Charity Hammer. And yeah, just shoot the shit and catch up with him because it's been a while since I've talked to him. So keep an eye out for that. David, you mentioned you were working on some projects. What are you working on right now?
Okay, so I think when last we talked, I was working on a Cataphren destroyer. That is now officially completed. This little duber, he's all done. And I finished my Skitarii Marshal conversion, and I finished painting him up. Yeah, I can't really see him, but he's fully painted, base, ready to roll. That's pretty cool. I painted an Arwen model for Lord of the Rings. That was first time for everything.
Is that
converting a model and painting a Lord of the Rings model?
Is that your first Lord of the Rings model you've ever painted?
That's the first thing I painted in the last 20 years. I painted when the first Lord of the Rings like box set came out. I painted like a few elves, I think. But I was like 13,
right? And
they look like poop. So
yeah,
right now, oh sorry.
So go ahead. No, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, and right now I am working on one of my sulfur hounds. They're like these weird servitor like creepy creatures. So I'm starting to work on these finally, which I'm really excited. So,
Yeah,
super excited.
that's amazing. I was gonna say I haven't painted Lord of the Rings. I used to have a really disgusting. I don't know the rules these days, but I remember when I used to work for Games Workshop back in I don't know, it was 2004. We had a staff tournament, and
Mhm.
part of the staff tournament, in order to win the staff tournament, was you had to win basically a mini tournament in each game system. So we played 40K Fantasy, Warhammer Fantasy at the time, and then Lord of the Rings. And so for Fantasy, I think I played Tomb Kings. For 40K, I think I played Chaos Space Marines. But for Lord of the Rings, I played because there's no real like army comp in Lord of the Rings. You just had to bring like I think I can't remember. Does it use points? I don't remember. It was it was like Elrond and like Glorfindel and like the two twins like Finnegan or something like that. It was these like two twins
The
plus
two elf twins,
yeah.
yeah.
There's two elf twins with the swords, and then I had a line of dwarf like the Khazad Doom dwarves, which had like really high armor value. I think Lord of the Rings uses armor value. And then I had Rangers of the North behind them with bows and then spears. So they would double up. So you'd have the with the Lord of the Rings, you can actually fight through bases. So I'd have like the super high armor dwarves in front with the Rangers with the bows behind them with spears, so they could attack through the dwarves. And then I had these like all three of these like super broken elf characters. And I ended up winning the staff tournament, obviously, because I took the most broken ass Lord of the Rings thing. I obviously don't know if you can still do that, but that was a long time ago. I still have a few models. I think I have an Elrond model kicking around, but I actually ended up selling all my Lord of the Rings stuff quite a while ago.
Right
Um,
on.
I'm actually surprised Games Workshop is still doing stuff for it. Like it's been, I think what was it? It's been 20 years now because Fellowship of the Ring came out in
Yeah,
2001. That's crazy.
yeah, yeah. Games Workshop had that IP for 20 years. It's pretty wild.
Do you think
Yeah.
that their IP or sorry their license will ever expire? Do you think this is something that we're going to see kind of quite for quite some time?
I don't know, frankly. I mean the Lord of the Rings like Regiment game is actually like pretty solid. I mean,
Was
I
that
don't play
battle?
it.
Was that Battle
Battle
for
for the
Pelennor Fields or Battle for the Five Armies or something?
I think so. I mean, like, I make fun of the Lord of the Rings games. I'm like, who fucking plays this game? And then you go to Nova and there's like 100 people playing. You're like, wait, people actually play this game?
Yeah, there's actually
Yeah,
a pretty
I mean,
thriving
like,
Lord of the Rings community here in Vancouver. It's weird.
but the game mechanics itself is really good.
Is
I just
it?
don't play it like actively. I mean, someone like was like, dude, you gotta play, you gotta play, you gotta play. And I'm like, fine, I'll fucking play this Regiment Lord of the Rings game, and it was actually pretty fun. Yeah.
I uh I have two things to say, and
Yes.
then we can move on to my projects. So I was in my kitchen today, and I was thinking about topics for politics and plastic, and this kind of ties into the Lord of the Rings thing, which is like Lord of the Rings is really I find Lord of the Rings really interesting in Games Workshop because it's the only game that they have that is not their IP, right? So everything else that Games Workshop produces miniature wise is their own IP, except Lord of the
Yeah.
Rings. And so what that shows me is that Games Workshop is at the time at least, I don't know if they would still do something like this, but they're savvy enough to have licensing deals with other IPs to create miniatures for them. And I was thinking about a topic for politics and plastic, which is should Games Workshop even make rules? You know, I often think that Games Workshop is one of the best miniature manufacturers in the world, but they're not the best games maker or rules maker by far. Like their rules in their games are like 40K is a fun game, AOS is a fun game. They're good games, but they're not good rules. Like the rules, when you think about like the delivery system, the tidiness, the actual mechanics, there's a lot of bad parts to them, right? And you know we can talk about digital rules, whatever, like the distribution. That's a whole subject which I've beat on a thousand times. But I was like, well, maybe Games Workshop should get out of the rules making and they should get into the model making. They should just focus 100% on model making. And the more I thought about it, I was like, well, you know, if you look at Lord of the Rings, they don't make. I mean, obviously they do some elements of the IP, like a lot of the Lord of the Rings stuff that they've released in the last like 15 years hasn't really been based on any of the Peter Jackson movies. It's a bit of a stretch. I don't even know what they're allowed to do with the IP as far as like taking liberties to like create, because there's a lot of units and stuff that obviously weren't really in the books or weren't
Yeah.
obviously in the movies from New Line. And it's really confusing to me, like, are these things that Games Workshop made up? Are these like things that like they read a sentence in like the Lost Tales of like the Tolkien, and there's like a sentence about some type of model, and then they went and kind of took liberties and made a model. Like, I'm just really curious about the process these days on how they make models for things that were not in the movies, because their licenses for the movies, right? It's with New Line Cinemas or whoever owns New Line, and that whole thing. It's not with the estate of Tolkien, right? That's why they can't do like from what I understand, like things like from the Silmarillion, like they can't do Morgoth and like Silmarillion stuff, because all that stuff is off limits. But, and where I'm getting to is, what do you think of the idea that Games Workshop does more stuff like that? Like, I think of things like Star Wars. I think of things like Star Trek. I think of things like I don't know, Song of Ice and Fire. There's all these giant, amazing IPs that are out there, right? That don't really have solid miniature companies behind them. Now, obviously, Star Wars has Legion, right?
Song of Fire and Ice has a giant miniature game,
right?
now.
And I think Cool Mini or Not did that. But my point is, there's a lot more IP out there that Games Workshop could go and create licensing. Like, I guess my point is, Games Workshop has shown that they're willing to take on a license like Lord of the Rings and actually support it for many, many years, make games for it as many, many years, and that becomes like a big part of their wheelhouse. Now, I would say that obviously Star Wars and things like Song of Fire and Ice, those are like, or is it Song of Ice and Fire? I don't know. Either one. They're taken at this point, but at some point, like even with Lord of the Rings, there was a company that probably made Lord of the Rings miniatures before Games Workshop did. So at some point, those IPs are going to expire. But imagine Games Workshop making, I don't know, what's another massive franchise, like DC or Marvel, or like, you know, getting into that whole miniature market where they're doing stuff for those companies. And now all of a sudden, Games Workshop has Warhammer 40K, Lord of the Rings, Marvel, Star Wars. You know, that would actually be something that and obviously I don't want that to happen necessarily, because they're having enough issues as it is to just make models for us. Like, we can barely get enough fucking codexes out. So I don't necessarily want them taking on that kind of project. But I just think it's an interesting conversation to say, hey, maybe there is a day down in the future where Games Workshop, once they've grown enough, once they've tripled their capacity, they've added more design people, they've got that ability, then they start maybe working with third parties to create miniatures for them. And maybe it's not even a thing where it's like, hey, go to gamesworkshop.com and buy Star Wars miniatures. Maybe it's a thing where it's like, like Fantasy Flight Games or whoever makes Star Wars now. It's not Fantasy Flight Games. They spun it off into another company now. But they're like, we're making a game and our miniatures will be produced by Games Workshop, but sold by us. So it's Games Workshop's tech and like ability in model making. Like, they take their expertise in model making and tech, and it's still sold and kind of branded under that other company. But essentially now they become almost like what Creature Caster is doing right now with they're making like some weird werewolf miniatures for some game. They're also making obviously they all the miniatures for their Kickstarter, which is for a different game, and then obviously they have their own Creature Caster models. But I just think it's an interesting conversation whether I want it to happen or not. I think there's other things I'd rather Games Workshop be doing, which is focusing on Warhammer and Warhammer 40K. But I do think it's something that I wouldn't hate to see in a few years once they get their shit together. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Honestly, I really have no opinion on it. I just, I'm not too, like, I love this game, but I'm not like invested in like to that degree, I guess, to like really having a good opinion towards it, honestly. I just take what I'm given. I'm like, all right, you're never gonna get the perfect equation out of this.
Yeah.
So you have a big old fatty Charybdis in your hand.
Yeah. So as you might see off screen here, I have, well, they don't see this part because it's cropped, but for those of you wondering what I've been playing around with, this is what I'm currently working on. It's Charybdis for my Thousand Suns / Emperor's Children. So the airbrushing is done for the most part. This is what the model looks like. If you guys are wondering how Charybdis actually plays on the table, it's got a 120 mil base oval, but it flies around. So it actually like it goes on this kind of drop pod base. So this is like very far from being complete, but I wanted to get some color on it. And then I'm working also on some noise marines for my Emperor's Children. So I've started to I've base coated them, started to do the rim jobs. This is like my Icon of Chaos guy. or sorry, icon of excess. And then I have things like Blastmasters and stuff like that. So I have 13 of those I'm working on. I just finished airbrushing those today. So now I'm going to do all the trim and then do the washes. I have an RTT on Sunday. So I'm just trying to get them battle ready. So I just want to get like, that's really like weird for me to do. Like I usually never do like 3 colors and then basing, but I want to try to get them battle ready at least for Sunday. So that means doing the bases, getting at least a 3rd color, and then going, moving. That's how. So the normal model. So he's asking, is it actually sits on the base? So the normal model actually comes with the Games Workshop flying stand. What I've done is I've replaced the flying stand with a piece of brass rod, and then I also magnetized it into the brass rod. So you can kind of tell there's a little magnet here, and there's a magnet at the top, and then there's a magnet. I kind of built. I put a hole here, and I basically embedded 2 magnets in. So what this allows me to do is for transport, I can pop it off, and then it'll still hold on to the base. But normally it comes with a flying stand. And I made sure that the final height of this is the same height as if it was on the flying stand. And I actually did rotate it a bit. So normally the flying stand puts it in a way that it's basically like this, right? But I have it like this a little bit. So yeah, and I put a brass rod just because flying stands are not trustworthy. And that's drilled almost halfway up into the model. So yeah, so that's what I'm working on. It's just really finicky and hard to hold because the claws and stuff. So I got to figure out how to do those. And then I'm working on obviously my noise marines. So I have 10 noise marines and then this Cryptus to get kind of finished for this RTT on Sunday. Yeah. Have you played any games, David? What kind of gaming scene is it like out in Utah right now?
So there's a really funny story about that. I went to a game store that's a mile and a half away from where I live. And I show up, and everyone plays. There's a gigantic group of guys. They all play 30K, and I didn't pack my 30K army because I never thought I'd run into a group of people that all play 30K at a game store.
Right.
And I'm a little heartbroken. So right now, I'm trying this week and next week trying to get some pickup games of 40K because I need to start figuring out how to play 40K again because I haven't played a game of. I played with my new AdMech book the week it came out, and then that was it. That's the last time I played. So I need to get some actual games in. And now that I've kind of introduced myself to the gaming community in Salt Lake City, I can kind of get games now, and I'm excited to see how the players here stack up against the players that I played back east. It's gonna be fun. I'm excited.
That's awesome. Is that something that have you played 30K much lately?
No, I didn't pack my 30K army, so I can't play it.
Right, but have you played it when was the last time you played 30K is what I'm saying?
I was playing 30K pretty decently, I would say once a month. When I was back in New York.
Right.
I missed it so much.
What's your favorite thing about the system? Because I'm not really quite clear
30K?
on it. Yeah.
No, it's 7th edition rule set. That's why I love it. And it's just a good stoic rule set that plays well. A lot of people that griped about 30K was some of the 7th edition was some of the spells and the formations that are in the game.
Right.
So the cool thing about 30K is you can choose a type of a type almost like a chapter not like chapter tactic, but you get a rite of war, and when it does, it pretty much tells you what kind of battle company your army was. So if you have recon company, they get special rules and they have special benefits and certain limitations to your army. You can't have a single model Terminator armor, you can't have X amount of things, but you gain benefits. You get to reroll your season initiative roll, and you get to reroll who gets to go set up first. So that's really nice. But also there's other ones where you can do Legion specific ones. There's one where you get noise marines count as compulsory troop choices. You have to take at least one unit of them, and they give your army +1 to your run move and +1 to your charge rolls.
Right.
So it's kind of cool. It has our little sneaky rules. But it's really fun. It's got a really unique flavor. It's all about flavor. It kind of really makes you feel like you're playing regiments from Legion chapters from the book, because they actually have some really cool flexibility and cool niche-y things that are kind of weird but fun.
I just like the fact that I can play with Magnus before he did nothing wrong.
Oh, he's a fucking beast.
Yeah. I
He's
actually,
absolute.
yeah, I hear he's pretty nasty. Also, I like the idea of the Psy Titans and then the Psychic Dreadnoughts that the Thousand Suns get. That was something that I really wish that they bring to 40k.
Yeah, they get the psychic
Oh,
Castellax robots.
yeah, and they get the Osiris Dreadnoughts. So
Yeah,
I thought
pretty cool.
the 30k Thousand Suns have so much more. They're so much more interesting than the 40k ones
Yeah.
because they have all the various cults. They have the various like different. They have like I don't know in the lore especially. They're so much more interesting because A, they have personalities, which is nice. B, like
Mhm.
the way that they use and describe their psychic powers. It's so cool. Like there's the different schools, like there's like the I don't know if they're what they're called in 30k, but basically there's like the cult of time, there's like all the different cults, and like they
Yep.
use those different abilities to like give them like different buffs essentially in battle, and they're actually so badass with their like, but think about it, they're all space marines enhanced with psychic powers, right? And it
Yeah.
just they're so badass in the like they're so good. The only problem is there wasn't that many of them, right? But like Thousand Sons, if they had like a whole chapter of psychic dudes, like they probably would have been one of the strongest chapters because taking any space marine and then giving him like psychic enhancements is pretty cool.
Yeah, the 30k Thousand Suns are really powerful. They're really fun. You can give them like the Sekhmet Terminators in them are really fun. Like a lot of every Space Marine Legion has like specialty units. Like one of them is like for Thousand Suns they have like psychic sniper rifle, like a psychic sniper unit that can like that's really cool. I don't know. They got some fun like fluff to them, and I wish like that was more translated better. But the problem is like the rules writers for 30k or Horse Heresy are not the same writers that work on 40k shit. So it's a
Yeah.
bummer.
I also did something, speaking of kind of things that I've been working on. So for some of you that may know that have played me in the last 8th edition, I used to have my spell cards, I put them on magic cards. And last night I was playing a game of I played my league game for my 40k league in my house with my game table that I bought and train that is on my table, so it's just exciting. And we were trying to like find secondaries or go through the secondaries, and I don't have the new chapter approved. So I was on like Wikipedia, I was on trying to find like shady screenshots online, and it was just super annoying. So what
Yeah.
I did, and I'm gonna show you guys what I did, just like I had my old magic spell cards, I made a set of secondaries on spell cards. So I'm gonna throw them up on screen here. So this is what they look like. Basically, it is a set of all the secondaries. Up top here on the right is the amount of points you can score, basically. So like Assassinate, you can score 3, and then if it's a Warlord, you score 1. Bring it down, you score 2 or 1. Titan Hunter, 4, 9. And then the total you can score for each secondary on the bottom. And then it's got the type of secondary, and then the end game or progressive. And I made a set of these magic cards. So you can basically print these, and then you throw them on some heavy cardstock, like a 100-pound cardstock. I usually get them printed at Staples, and then I sleeve them in magic cards. So now I can use these for my secondaries. So if you guys are interested in a link for these, I will throw them in the show notes. Basically, I've also posted them into the Duplicity or competitive 40k group, and I've also posted a link into the Duplicity Paint Discord. So if you guys are interested in downloading this file, and I will eventually add the faction specific ones, but I don't have that information right now, so I just want to do these quickly for myself, but I will eventually add the chapter specific ones as well, so it'll be like a full set of secondaries. And what I'm going to do is keep it up to date, so as new secondaries come out, you can basically print off this thing, and you can just print off the cards you want, obviously, and you just have physical secondary cards, because that's one thing that you don't have in like, you don't get those right now. There's no tactical objectives, which are like physical cards, right? Like you don't have those anymore, which I really miss. I like having the tactile and not having to look through the old book. Plus, if you don't want to buy the chapter approved 2021, which I would recommend no one does because it's a giant ripoff and Games Workshop should feel bad for releasing in the first place, you can just take these cards with you and you can just have them with you on your games. So, David,
Yes.
heat wave. Let's talk about the heat
Heat
wave.
wave.
So
Fuck this heat, dude. Like, I don't know how you people out west handle this, but it's not fun.
no, it's not. So when did I talk to you
on.
last? Was that last? It wasn't last Thursday.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. So
2 weeks ago we talked.
So on July 28th, I think, and 29th, we had the 2 hottest days in record ever recorded in Vancouver. At around, I did record with McDougall that week, so he was kind of witness to that. But it was 38 degrees Celsius in Vancouver, and they recorded a temperature of 47 degrees Celsius in the interior, which is around 119 degrees Fahrenheit. So we had the 2 hottest days on record ever in the province in the history of like recorded temperature. It was not pleasant. Thankfully, I have air conditioning in my apartment that I've paid for and added, and it's not too bad for me. But tell me about the heat in Utah.
Yeah. Dude, so a good example is yesterday, I went to this like valley. It's called Joe's Valley. It's in Utah. It's like 2.5 hours from Salt Lake City, and it's like pretty much like desert land and like canyons and valleys. And I went there to go climbing, and it was so hot out, I was getting physically sick. Like I was like in the shade, and all my water like was like ice cold, and I laughed. But by the time I got to like the valley, it was like hot water, and I'm like just drinking hot water in the shade, just like getting sick. And I was like, I need to go home. So I climbed for like 5 hours, and then I just got in my car. I was like, I need to go back. Like I was supposed to camp that night, but I could not handle it. No. I also forgot that I had a podcast this morning, a recording with Scary and his crew. And then like I was like, Scary, what time are we doing this Friday? He's like, it's tomorrow. And I'm like, oh yeah.
I thought it's tomorrow too, because I saw it pop up on my Instagram and it was like tomorrow, and then maybe it was just an old story.
Yeah, I don't know why, but the last time him and I did a recording together was a Friday. And I don't know why, but I thought the 8th was Fridays. Like I had it like in my head, like, yeah, Friday I have this, Thursday I have, this show. I'm like, yeah, this works out. I can camp overnight in my car, climb early in the morning, get home, do the podcast. Like, yeah, this works out.
Yeah.
Well, I was like, oh crap, I can't be here. The sun chased me out though.
So
it's really hot here.
So you famously, David, don't use a wet pallet. I use a wet pallet. So even with my wet pallet, I was literally, and I have a bottle like this that I use to hydrate it as I go. Like literally, yeah. I couldn't paint last week for most of last week because it was so hot, even with my air conditioner. Because my air conditioner is designed for like my apartment's around like sort of 500 square feet, and it's designed for like a 200. It's just designed for a small room, like 300 square feet room. My air conditioner, because it's like a small window one.
Yeah.
And it's on full blast for those 2 days, and it was like just barely keeping the apartment livable. But I couldn't, like, I would literally pour water into my wet pallet, and I would watch it, and it would like within like 3 minutes you could like literally see the water like evaporating. And like I can't imagine how you paint, where you paint literally out of the pot. So basically for the most part. Yeah. So like was the paint basically dry before it even got to your bottle?
Funny story, actually. No, funny story though. So when I was driving cross country, I had all of my paints in like a plastic box, clear plastic box. And I had like right on top of everything. So when I was driving, it was exposed to like sunlight. And when I was driving through Nebraska, it was like 120 degrees. And I was like, and like it was in my car like most days when I was traveling cross country. So it was like 110, 115. I got to Utah and I was like, oh yeah, time to paint models. And I pull out my model and I dip my finger in the paint and I'm like, well, that's weird. Like this paint is dry. And I'm like, oh crap, I must have grabbed the wrong paint. So I go to the next pot to do different color. It's all dry. I'm like, okay, whatever. Next one, dry. Majority of the paints, unless I bought them like the week prior to me leaving, they all baked themselves in their paint pots.
Right.
So GW, figure out your paints so they don't bake inside of your paint pot containers, because all my paints are now unusable, and I had to rebuy like $200 to $300 worth of paints just so I could paint my models again. I was like, this is bogus.
That's yeah.
But I'm stupid. I shouldn't have done that. Lesson learned.
I don't know. I mean, I've had that happen before, but I mean, I keep mine in a fairly cool place, dry place, dark place. So, all right, David. We had an Mech Fact last week. Did you get a chance to look at it? What did you think? It's pretty tame so far. I think a lot of us were expecting. Well, okay. Let me rephrase. a lot of us are expecting some future nerf, but for this, it seemed like they got the most egregious of issues, and especially the disappearing flying dudes. But what did you think of the FAQ in general?
I hate the fact they had to FAQ that, because people who thought you could get away with that, like, it's one of those kind of things where, like, because the wording was like just garbage, like people are just like, yeah, rules is written, this is how you do it. It's like, dude, do you think they really made a rule mechanic where a model just isn't on the table? Like, you just sort of get smacked in the mouth if you think that's like that was how they wanted to write the rule. Like, it just seems stupid. Like, come on, man. Like, you really think that's gonna be the rule? Um, yeah, a lot of the things just seemed really tame. Other than that, I mean, who thought you could double stack the same aura on someone? That was just stupid. Like the Manipulous Priest thing. Like, oh yeah, you can't combine 2 Manipulous Priests to give yourself, +6, +12 range and -2 AP. It's like, you can't be that stupid. Like, come on. Like, when was it ever a point where, like, it just seems like people are just being trolly with GW, like, oh, you guys suck at, like, your linguistics and writing these rules, so we're just gonna, like, troll you and be like, we're gonna stack these auras, which you never can stack the same, like, command ability.
Yeah.
When has there ever been a situation where you could stack the same command ability twice? Like, never. This is stupid. Like, I mean, I guess there are enough dumb players out there who think that's how that works, and, like, bravo, you fixed it. You fixed the hard ones.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people are just thinking about a lot of the strats. I think mostly.
So something needs to be done. Like there's just too much. It's too strong right now, to be honest. And I'm supposed to play AdMech on Saturday with my Thousand Sons, and I'm looking forward to the game, not because I think I'm going to win, but just because I'm interested to kind of do my best to see how I can solve it with my chaos that I have. But just the problem is the buff stacking, there needs to be a higher cost to it, and just in general, AdMech seem to get a lot of rules for free. And yeah, so I don't know what the fix is. Like Drukhari, it felt like there's like 6 things I could point to: Raiders, like some of the Cult of Strife stuff, that kind of stuff, where it just felt dark, like Technomancers, whatever. Drukhari is still really good though. They're still, like, I'd say too strong. Now AdMech have come in and they're not only too strong, but it's like the fixes are going to require quite a bit of change across multiple stratagems, potentially even points changes, that kind of stuff. So I'd like to see them actually do that, address that stuff, but it just sets a really bad precedent. Like, is this what every book's going to be? Book comes out, bunch of nerfs, FAQ errata, book comes out. Like, it's like, Games Workshop, get your shit together. And stop releasing dumb bad rules.
There's some pretty easy fixes to the book. Really, really easy fixes. Drop Rangers and Vanguard back down to 10-man squads. That was just stupid. Why would you give them 20-man squads? When I looked at the book for the first time, I'm like, why would you give them 20-man squads? They never had that. Never. You can give them to, like, Electro Priest, but they're expensive. You would never run a 20-man Electro Priest unit unless this is back in the day where you could, like,
well, Sisters got the same treatment. Like, they can have 20-man squads. It doesn't make any sense. Sisters can do the same. It makes no sense.
I don't think Rangers and Vanguard should ever have gotten that boost, because
I agree.
One of the things is like those 2 strats, Galvanic Volley and Enriched Rounds, like getting, let's see, 80 shots out of a 160 point unit is silly, and getting, 60 shots from Enriched Rounds with 30 auto wound hits, like, more probably if you're running reroll 1s and shit, like, it doesn't seem like a very, like, it just seemed kind of stupid. Like, why would you do this? Like, yeah, people are gonna just run blobs of infantry, and they're not gonna run away because we have the easiest strat where you can just be like, I auto pass within 6 inches of a
which is, like, the most ridiculous. Like, okay, so CP. The fact that, like, a unit like that will always be within 6 inches of the objective.
What's that?
A unit like that will almost always be within 6 inches of an objective.
Or multiple units, because it's all units within 6 inches of an objective get to auto pass leadership.
Yeah.
You just choose an objective and you just do it.
The other thing that doesn't help is the fact that I get free transhuman, I get free fallback and shoot, I get free +2 to my Arvis save for free, basically, because if it's damage 1 and Lucius, like, you get light cover and you get +1 to save, so you can stack those. I can count as cover in the open. Like, there's just so many different buff stacking you can do. And the problem is Like now, I think the one way to deal with it is to maybe see if you can take out the characters. If you can take out the manipulus early, but things like the solar flare, and then they also have really cheap infiltrating troops, so it's hard to like alpha them, right? It's hard to get close to them and shoot them turn one because they're gonna have infiltrators taking mid board, right? For very cheap. They're gonna have
Oh, you mean like Nurglings? You mean like Nurglings? How everyone has to deal with cheap Nurglings who are just in the middle of the table all the time?
right,
Yeah, it
but
sucks,
chaos
right?
is
When the tables are turned, it really
but
sucks.
chaos
Yeah.
is not a shooting army. First of all, demons suck overall. Chaos is not a shooting army, so
Yeah.
like having yeah, it's a different. I'm not saying that Nurglings aren't good. I'm just saying the ability to have that kind of blockout in an army like AdMech, it makes it so much harder to deal with than in a chaos army where I'm going to be coming to you anyways, right?
I mean, a lot of armies do have those mid-board units. Like, there's still Space Marine Scouts. There's
Right.
still Ratlings and other Imperial Guard units that can do that. I mean, like, a lot of armies have mid-board blockers. I mean, like, now we don't have to pay strats to do it. That's the only difference, really. I mean, like, you have the Raiders and we have Infiltrators. But then again, if you're running a melee army and you get easy kills in the middle, easy kills in the beginning of the game, and it gives you, like, if you get the first turn because it's a roll-off, you stick those models in the middle of the table and you don't go first, like, you're in a bad place because that means you're just giving your opponent easy movement to get mid-board.
Maybe. I think you're not worried about that because everything that goes mid-board is going to die. And the other thing too is like I was thinking about it. Obliterators are 110 points. Iron Strider Ballistari is 65 points. Like that's actually like rude how cheap one of those models is compared to Obliterator and the amount of damage it can do. It can do 12 wounds a turn. Obliterator, even if it it's just not.
We'll complain about this when Chaos gets their new book.
Speaking of, great segue, David. So there's a question in chat. Trashboat asks if we know anything about the new orcs. Are they going to be playable? I have it on good authority. The new orcs will be very strong. Now, are they going to be AdMech strong? I mean, we'll see. Are they going to be counterable by AdMech? Probably. But yeah, I believe they're going to be very strong. And then I don't think so. He also asks if GW ever buff an army and because they have surplus in their warehouse. I mean, I don't think so. I mean, that seems the thing is the problem is that the books are written 6 to 8 months before they're released. So oftentimes it's not really like, so here's the thing. If your theory is that good rules sell models, which is true, it's not a theory, that's a fact. And I think we both agree to that. Then Games Workshop would never release shitty rules. But when we look at things like a lot of books with like, look at a lot of the demon engines, look at a lot of the, there's a lot of units in books that are awful, right? That are basically unplayable on release, right? Like Necrons had a lot of units that just aren't good. There's a lot of units across every book, even new books too, right? When you look at, say, what's a recent book that came out Necrons have a lot of units that just aren't good. I'm just trying to think of we'll see what happens with Bellacore, but like Games Workshop has shown that they will release shitty units and independent of the rules all the time, and that doesn't sell models, right? Like I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but there's definitely like recently Plague Marines is a good one, right? Like I have 40 Plague Marines and the rules are not good, right? Things like I don't know, possessed, right? Like, you know, so I guess my point is greater possessed are pretty awful. Like I don't think I've ever been seen playing any army. So there's lots of rules for models that are bad that Games Workshop releases all the time. Now, do I think they do it on purpose? Probably not. I mean, I think the rules designers would like to think that they're releasing good things. But just like they don't know what's too good, I don't think they know when things are too bad either. You know what I'm saying? Like they don't have any sense of like how good something is in both directions. Sometimes they make things that are too good and they don't realize it, and sometimes they make things that are garbage and they don't realize it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think I go back to like this AdMech book is like the units themselves are pretty mediocre. It's just when you get to stack buffs and combinations, they become really good. And it's hard to like dissect the gross things from the bad things. I mean, there's still bad units in that book. Like Dune crawlers are not good and are really not that good anymore. They're still decent. I'm still gonna run them. The Scorpius tanks are poop, like they're
Well,
expensive
they were good,
and
now they're bad.
yeah.
So the theory,
So
the
now
theory,
like
the theory on that, something like that, is like they like to rotate what's good through like in editions, because Scorpius tanks were amazing before the book came out. Like in 8th edition, they were amazing, right? When they're strength 6.
because they're strength 6, and
Yeah.
strength 6 is a very good strength profile. Also, like I think they're good at what they do. The reason why it's not as good is because number one, they are not none of the vehicles are core choices. That's the other thing. You want to fix Balustri, remove core from them. That's it. I don't know why they even have core. Just remove core from them, and they become not that great because they're not being affected by a lot of different abilities and a lot of different strats and a lot of different relics, and warlord traits. They lose a lot of it if you just remove core from Balustri. It's a simple fix that GW can do by removing like a keyword from like units or just reducing unit sizes. These are simple changes that can actually really change the way these units are effective. But will we see that change? I don't know.
Yeah, you'd like to think that chapter proved is the big thing where they can really look at across the board units and point them appropriately, right? So that they're desirable.
Yeah.
And always every chapter proved there are some nuggets that emerge. But all in all, I'd say that they're not very good at making things desirable once they're bad. Like if the data sheet's bad, if the book is bad, it's really hard to take a unit and just like to make it cheap enough that it's really good.
Yeah. Hey, Aesthetic Deluxe had a really good question about how do we deal with painting models super nice in ever-changing meta. The fact that like if you're having a paint project and the meta changes and all of a sudden like say an FAQ drops and just ruins a unit that you were working super hard on. Like how do you deal with it?
I mean,
how would you
go look at my
Big
play on,
question,
the answer for me is go look at my play on tabletop army showcase of 30,000 points of chaos. I don't. I play my army. I'm a chaos player mostly through and through. Look, you guys can't see it. I have a 3,000 points of Soul Drinkers sitting up on a shelf back there that I never ever got a chance to play because by the time I finished painting it, the meta had already moved on and I'd gone back to chaos. So the reality is people like me and David, and I'm going to speak for you, David, we chase the meta within the armies that we play. So we might play a strong list with what we have, but we're not ever at the cutting edge of the meta because if I don't own the models, I can paint one unit within record time, but I will never buy an army because it's all of a sudden the flavor of the month. That is a huge mistake because I know I'm never gonna be able to paint it to my standard within the time, just like my Soul Drinkers. And second, that's not the kind of player I am. Like I like to play competitively and I like to write good lists, but I'm not going to field an army that's 3 colors minimum based. And obviously, I'm not going to get a commission painting because even though I'm a commission painter, that's against my ethos to have other people paint my models, even though I'll paint it for other people. So the thing is, the way I deal with it is I don't deal with it. I paint models constantly throughout the year, and my hope is that by the time my book comes out or as the meta adjusts, I'll have the things I need. Or if I need to paint one unit or one model, it's easy enough. But I generally don't start armies due to a meta decision. I might start an army because they released an army and I really like the models. And eventually, by the time I finish that army, maybe it's good or maybe it's nerfed. Who cares? But I'll still, because I enjoy the hobby aspect, I'll still be happy that I did that. David, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I always have a strong belief that like we're not like army painters or army collectors. Like myself, I like to convert a unit I like to convert every single unit that I can possibly take in my army. And I usually go through like the entire book and then I start all over again. There are times where I have like the other thing too about the only thing I really don't like about GW, and you have to catch it because it's always going to happen to you, is they're like rule of 3. You can only have 3 of something, and so like if you're looking at something in the meta where like it's almost like a cure-all where everyone's taking 3 of something, like there's a while where in the AdMech community everyone's running 3 Scorpius tanks. I only paint and built 1, so I'm like, there's gonna be a situation that's gonna occur where like that thing's gonna get nerfed into the ground, or it's gonna get like it's gonna become crappy somehow, and now I'm gonna have 2 tanks that I probably will never run. So I only paint and built 1, and luckily I did.
Mm-hmm.
Do people still run 3 Plague Burst poop tanks?
I
Is
mean,
that still a
that's
thing that
the game
people
I
are
played
doing?
yesterday. The guy had 3, but he's also he hasn't really played since 8th edition, so his Death Guard army is still very 8th edition. He had Blightlord Terminators, big block of 10, 3 Plague Burst Crawlers, some Poxwalkers, a few Death Shroud, and like
Yeah.
some characters thrown in. So yeah, people still play it, but like I have 3 Defilers on my shelf. I have 3 of almost everything, and that's kind of the way I approach army building now. Is I'll just buy and paint 3, even if I'm not going to use them, or I might use them once because at some point they'll get good again, or at some point I will play them. And actually, the reason I really like the rule of 3, it means once I've got my 3, I don't need to worry about it again. It's like I got my 3. That's all I'm ever going to really need.
Yeah.
And I don't have to go. I don't have to go buy 6 more or 9 more, right? If that's the case.
Yeah.
Especially for vehicles. Obviously, like I'm painting Noise Marines now. If they come up with a new Noise Marine box, I'm gonna buy those too, and I'll have another unit of Noise Marines. And if they come up with
Yeah.
Corn Berserkers, even though I have a unit, I'll buy another unit of those because it's new stuff. But in general, I don't chase the meta like that. It's not good for you. Yeah, I own almost everything for Death Guard at this point. I own every single sculpt of Plague Marines they've ever created. I own, so all like 29 unique sculpts. I think the only thing I don't actually own for Death Guard is I'm just trying to think. Do I own so non-forge rolled included? I think I own
Yeah.
every single model in the Death Guard range. Painted. Like my Death Guard
You're
is finished. I can't imagine me painting more Death Guard. I thought about maybe picking up 20 of the new zombies from AOS and painting them as Poxwalkers just because they're really cool models. And I definitely don't want to paint any more of my current any more Poxwalkers of the current sculpts because I painted 40 of them and they're I want to kill
yeah.
myself. But yeah, so I might do that. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, so I play a few other 40k armies. One of them is Raven Guard. I play 30k, and honestly, like sometimes I just build an army that's not even competitive, and I just want to build my own weird janky world where I think an entire Phobos army with Space Marine scouts is gonna work. And sometimes it actually does okay, but like sometimes you just gotta like not think about like what's gonna get nerfed and just build the army that you think is just gonna be fun to play with. I know like a lot of people are from a competitive standpoint and they're like, well, why would I run this list if it just gets like it's shit kicked in a tournament? But I mean, we live in a tournament world now where like objective grabbing is super important. So you can play a fluffy list. It's kind of goofy and janky, and who's good at holding objectives, like probably won't do so bad actually. Like won't do
Yeah,
so horrible.
like my game, my league game I played yesterday, the only thing I had left at the end of the game was 10 cultists, a Terminator sorcerer, and like 15 horrors, I think. And he had like a PBC, he had a Demon Prince, he had like 5 Blight Lords, he had a bunch of characters, but he didn't. They were still in his deployment zone because
Yeah.
basically I just kept feeding stuff in his deployment zone and just letting it die, and just tar pit him in his deployment zone. His Death Guard, right? So by turn 3, once he wasn't out of his deployment zone, like he just I won on primaries. I maxed primaries. I ended up winning like 84-50, I think, because he just literally couldn't get out of his deployment zone. Because I just every time he would kill something, I just send another thing in, and he just have to deal with it, right? And it's like, and it didn't matter that I literally had like a third of the points of heated left, right? Because it didn't like the game and what I had left. If we had played a 6 turn, maybe he would have been able to do something. But in a 5 turn game, it's really about scoring early and denying points because there's very little opportunity to come back if you fall behind early. Those first 3 points, like turn 4 and 5 now, are almost like our turn 4 and 5 were so quick because basically by the end of turn 3, the game was basically over, right? Like his turn 5, I was like, the only way you can score points is if you do this one thing. So just do the one thing. Otherwise, there's no point in you even playing, like doing anything else. You won't score any other points. And then my turn 5, same thing. I was like, I've already maxed primaries. I've already maxed my engage. The only thing that I can score points is if I kill this one model. So I literally skipped right to my shooting phase. I shot it, didn't kill it, and I just didn't get the points. Like I didn't do anything else because the game was already decided at that point, right? And I find a lot of the 9th edition games are like that, where oftentimes it is decided basically by the end of turn 4, the game's over. Turn 5 is basically just there to kind of mop up, unless it's a super close game. All right, any predictions for this Saturday's Orc reveal, David?
Ooh, I hope they give us a Squiggoth.
Like plastic Squirroth? Well, they're gonna get a squig
Dude,
something.
fucking Flaccid Squiggoth would be amazing. Val would just die a happy man that day, just knowing that the world's been blessed with a plastic Squiggoth.
Squiggoth is like a squig that's a mammoth, right? It's like
Yeah,
a
it's like
squig
a
mammoth.
giant. It's got like a howdah
It's got the
on
big
the back,
horns.
and yeah, it's got big tusks. It's got like a howdah where people can all like hang out in the back, and then there's like a gun mount, like a mortar usually mounted on the back of it. They're just super funny. I would love to see that because they made all these new buggies, they made all these new like tanks, they made like Gorkanauts, Morkanauts, but like I want to see like a giant ass like wig because like I don't know, like they liquidated those models from Forge World, and it's like no one like I would like to see them have rules again, like and a model that represents it well.
Yeah,
The
I hope we just get a preview of what's coming after Orcs. I don't really care about the Orcs. I just want to know if we get a preview. I assume they're going to announce the third Warzone book, Warzone Octarius, it sounds like. There's been some teasing of whether we might get Death Corps or Steel Legion, something along that looks like those. There's like some hints and rumors that we might get something like that. And then obviously
yeah.
Gene Stealer cults and Tyranids are supposed to be in the next book, Warzone book. So hopefully we'll get those. I just hope it's not like, here's the remaining 2 orc units. Have fun. Thanks for the preview. I hope it's more than orcs.
Yeah. I mean, they showed that like it was like the recent preview about like bomb squigs now, and how like there's also like the squig cavalry that can get like an upgrade where like if they're in engagement range after their charge is done, they can cause like mortal wounds on a 4-up.
Is that one
like,
model or like is that each model? Like how many of these models are in a unit? Because if that's like
yeah, I'm kind of scared about that. It says each model roll 5d6 and a 4 if they cause a mortal wound, and I'm like, what?
Yeah, I was
Please
like,
tell me it ended like 3 models per unit. That still has 15 mortal wounds attempts. It's like what?
well, I thought it was maybe like a character model of some kind, and that's like you just get one of them. But the way that it's written, it's like, oh, maybe there's actually like 3 to 6 of these in a unit, which is really nasty if that's the rule.
That would be horrifying. Just like mortal wound dumping from just charging.
Yeah, and I'm unhappy to also report that, as I mentioned in previous shows, I can confirm from a very good source, in fact, people that have the book that I've seen, the Chaos Space Marine rules are indeed just a reprint of the Vigilus and Faith and Fury rules in the book. So they're just basically consolidated them, which not only means that we didn't get our 1 wound update or 2 wound update, which is really sad, but also that we probably won't get a Chaos Space Marine book for quite some time. I would imagine not until 2022 at this rate. Sad face.
I feel like it's like a super lazy thing for GW. Just make a quick FAQ that just like updates the Chaos book to have like 2 wound models.
Yeah, it's not even that many units. Cult troops, basic Chaos Space Marines, possessed. Possessed actually can already have 2 wounds, so they can just stay at 2 wounds. They just update their attacks. And then like even I don't even mind if they don't make the demon engines the new ballistic skill. But they could really easily do that. It's just really sad.
Yeah.
I'm sad. Yeah, I'm sad, David. I'm really sad.
It's okay. It's okay. You'll get your comeuppance one day, and then you'll show them all.
Yeah, I don't know why they couldn't have done Chaos Space Marine supplement and then yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Yeah.
Their movement makes a good point. They should have just given us the supplement in advance of the book. If they could do it for Dark Angels and all the Space Marine chapters, then they can do it for us. Yeah. It's just frustrating. All right, last topic of the day before we go, because it's gonna be a bit of a shorter show today. Is that the last topic? No, I just had the rules rant. We talked about hobbing and heatwave. Add mech. I think that's everything, David. I think we've covered everything. So that is exciting.
Yeah, man. I mean, like, have you been thinking about like once your commissions are over? I mean, I know you're working right now on a massive Dark Angel commission. Once you're done with that, like, have you thought about like maybe investing in a new army, possibly?
Yeah. So here's my current hobby plans for the year. I'm really focused on getting this Dark Angels commission done. I'd like to get it done by basically the end of August, which sounds like a long way away, but I've been working on it for about 2 months, 2.5 months. And it's got 4,000 points. It's a lot to do. Plus I've been very busy with like streaming, with my own projects, with traveling, kind of stuff like that. I don't know what I'm gonna do, to be honest. Like, I know there's lots. I think what I'm probably gonna do is once I've finished my current projects, I'm probably gonna just take it easy as far as painting. I wanna maybe just like tune down the painting a bit and then start playing a lot more. And because right now I dedicate a lot of my hobby time to painting, but I want to start playing more and start to sharpen the pen, so to speak. Is that the saying? Sharpen the pen or whatever. Because obviously events are starting again. I have my first. I have an RTT I'm going to this Sunday, real life RTT, which is exciting, and I'll cover my list. These guys want to cover this, go over it, and then I have Charity Hammer coming up, and I'll be very honest, guys. I'm gonna embarrass myself at Charity Hammer. Most of the guys that are going are from America, where they've been playing for the last year. I've literally played 6 games of real life 40k, and then maybe I think I have around 60 hours logged in TTS. Whereas like at least McDougall, who's coming with me, Alex McDougall, my co-host, he'll be down there as well, and JT McDowell. Those are the 3 Canadians going. McDougall has like 600 hours of TTS. So although he hasn't played as many real life games, he has like 10 times as many hours in TTS. He plays 2 to 3 games a week on Tabletop Simulator. I don't do that because I don't like tabletop. I'd rather paint than play Tabletop Simulator. It's just not my thing, right? So I'd like to really spend the second half of the year. So Attack X in October is the first big GT that I'm going to be going to. It's going to be a 100-man. No, it's in September, I think. And it's actually, man, you got to understand. So we're in stage 3 of our restrictions, which is like the last stage before everything's lifted. So stage 4 is when everything's back to normal. The announcement for whether they lift stage 4 happens 3 days before the event. And if they don't lift stage 4, the whole event is canceled because if they don't lift stage 4, then the event has to operate at 50% capacity. So we're on the trajectory right now. I think we have in BC, we have around 50 COVID cases a day, which is really low. And I'm double vaxxed. It's about 40% are double vaxxed and about 80% are single vaxxed. So I'm hoping by the time September comes around, the variants are kind of squashed. We're keeping it very low. They go to stage 4, we have the event. But if it doesn't, the whole thing gets canceled. And then my next event after that probably won't be till October. But I'm going to go and try to win that event. And I know McDougall's going, so he's going to be my big competition. As I said, he's got a lot more games under his belt. So my goal basically for the next 2-3 months is start to just get back into playing a lot more real life games. That's why I'm literally playing. I played yesterday, I'm playing on Saturday, and I have 3 games RTT. I'm going to start trying to play weekly games as well. I'm also going to be setting up my stream setup at home so I can start streaming games. So I know some people mentioned if I could stream games, I'm going to be doing that. So I'm definitely going to be streaming games. It's going to take me a little while to get everything set up because I have to create, basically I have my streaming camera here, but it's also my painting camera. So I got to create like a second rig so I can like suspend it from my roof and all this kind of stuff. Maybe get a second power cord, all that kind of jazz. I don't want to have to like do a bunch of cable stuff, but I will do some streaming eventually on the channel. As far as my list for the RTT, I haven't actually written it, but I'll tell you what I'm thinking of running. So let me see. I'll just actually pull it up for you guys because I can. So this is the list. Where are you? So I'll just pull it up for you guys. Oh my God, that's ugly. Okay. So let's see if I can do this. Do we have the technology, guys? Can Jim figure out one thing on the list? Okay, so here we go. Battle Scribe, where are you? No, wrong one.
Anything about a heat wave?
Okay, so here's my list. Let's see here. Hold on. Transform, reset transformation. Okay, so I'm gonna go through my list. So let's transition here. Okay. So here's my list here. So I'll go through it really quick. So it's going to be Patrol Detachment, Thousand Suns, Cult of Magic, Sorcerer and Terminator Armor with Arcane Focus. So that's +1 Mortal Wound, Devastating Sorcery. So he gets +1 to cast as well. Spell Familiar, and then Glamour of Zinch and Prescience. 5 Rubrics, Chaos Contemptor with Twin Volkites. And then I have a Chaos Spawn, single Chaos Spawn. And then I have Magnus. And then I have a Emperor's Children Detachment. I don't know if you guys can see this. Hopefully you can. Let's see here. How's this working? I'll just pull it up. Sorry, David, I'm going to cover your face for a sec. Bear with me.
Don't worry about it.
Okay, so then on my second part of my list is going to be Emperor's Children Attachment, Dark Apostle with Blissful Devotion, and the Relic of Marvage, whatever. It's not on here, but it is. Sorcerer with Prescience Warp Time, 10 Cultists, 10 Noise Marines, a Leviathan with Siege Claw, 300 Killers, Mark Clanesh, Storm Cannon, and Volkites, 10 Terminators with 2 Kami Meltas, and then a Dread Claw. So that's the list I'm planning to run, probably on Sunday. I might make a few tweaks to it as far as just like, I think I have still in this list, how many points do I have left? Let's see here. Where's my points? So I have, I don't know, somewhere in here. Merge forces. I have some points left. I'm not sure how many, but I will figure it out. I think there's like 6 points left or something like that. There's 50 points left in this list, which I'm not sure what I'm going to do with. I might either increase the cultists, add a unit of cultists, or increase my rubrics or something like that. So it's a bit of everything, and I'm just playing it, guys, because I want to continue playing with my Thousand Suns and just getting back into them. The reason I'm playing Thousand Suns in my league, if I mentioned it, is that basically in our league you can't change Warlord factions once the league starts. So although I can change lists, add detachments, remove detachments, because I started as Thousand Suns, my Warlord always has to be Thousand Suns. And the reason I'm playing Thousand Suns is because I'm anticipating the new book to drop before the league is over. So I just want to continue getting reps with them, getting back into the back to the habit, and hopefully it goes well. So
Nice.
but yeah, that's my list. I will. You can check it out too. It's called. If you're looking for the event on BCP, it's literally a backyard event we're playing in our buddy's backyard, outdoors. It's called. Where is it? It's called Brent's Backyard Throwdown. I don't know if you can see that. Brent's Backyard Throwdown 2. So that's the name of the event. The RTT. I think right now there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 players signed up. So it's literally just a bunch of our buddies in a backyard, literally drinking beers and playing Warhammer outside. So it's going to be fun. It's the first time I've actually played an RTT since it's my first actual event since Canhammer Team Tournament in February of 2020. So very exciting.
A triumphant return to the reality.
Yeah, and I'm going to get beaten by a bunch of Gary Sacco, the guy that beat me at on my Plan Battle Report. He's coming with Dark Angels. So hopefully I get to play him and destroy him because he's a jerk.
Really quick thing, by the way. Can we just talk about the new AOS Dominion box set?
Yeah, absolutely. Talk.
Have you looked at those models and thought to yourself, I want to convert some of those bad boys?
I mean, I think the spear dudes would look good as like something chaos. I don't like the orcs. So like, look, I think the orcs are very well sculpted. They're from a sculpting perspective, they're very nice sculpts. I don't like the aesthetic. Yeah. They remind me too much of like Lord of the Rings almost a little bit. It's hard to describe what they remind me of.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I don't love the orcs. I do think they're nice models. They're just not for me. The AOS, the skinny Stormcast, I actually really like. The chick with the wings, I definitely want to get my hands on one so I can convert her into something. I don't love her pose. I like the model. I like Bart's model. I don't love her pose. It just looks a little bit awkward. And some of the AOS characters I don't love. But yeah, overall, I think that my favorite guys are the guys that look like hoplites. Like the spear dudes. So like the skinny guys with the shields. Those look really cool. Yeah. So yeah.
Did you see they released more of the Sigmarite models that are going to be coming out? Like they made these new Ranger models and these like double-handed sword Sigmarites with the lighter armor.
Those look really cool.
Yeah, they look amazing. And that I don't know what that one dude is with the lightning eyes. And he's got like this massive hammer and he's just like Dio strutting towards the towards the enemy army. I like that model a lot too. I'm excited to see what all these models look like in person. I only have a small handful of custodians painted, and I'm now thinking I want to convert a lot of these as part of my custodian army. So, but I like the lithness of them. I just think they need some bits added to them to be perfect for what I want to do with this custode project.
Yeah. All right, David.
Yeah.
We won't be back next week. Next week, Politics and Plastics back. So we have a 2-week hiatus. So I'll see you in a few weeks. As always, guys, if you did enjoy the show, please make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube. Give us a follow on Twitch. Leave a comment down below. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast feed. So just search the Best Overall Show on Google, Spotify, Podbean, Apple Podcasts, whatever you get your normal podcast for. Search the Best Overall Show. All of the shows that we do are podcasts there, including Competitive Corner and Politics and Plastic. Those all get a podcast version as well. So if you'd like to listen at work. Thanks everyone for listening. David, have a great week, and I will hopefully see you with a fully painted Dreadclaw and Noise Marines next time we meet.
And I hope I have 10 more Rangers ready for my army. Who knows? Maybe it'll happen. I have a really low bar.
Fingers crossed for you. All right, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in.